Sweet darling, that ain't the way you make love. You've been turning around uptown. You ain't some fancy clown. You ain't some fancy clown. You've been turning around uptown. You ain't some fancy clown. You ain't some fancy clown. You've been, I hear you in the background. Ooh, I hear you in the background. I hear you in the background. Ooh, I hear you in the background. You've been turning around uptown. You ain't some fancy clown. You ain't some fancy clown.
Hey there, y'all. What's up,
All
fellas?
right. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? All
What's
right.
going on?
It's you. It's you. It's happening. What's happening? What's happening? Yo,
What's going on, man? Same old thing. Dealing with this
good,
cold
good,
weather.
good. Welcome, family. This is the Back Alley Fellas podcast. Here
Welcome.
once again,
Welcome.
chilling. We seem very mild mannered. It's snowing where I'm at, and they over there. I
Always
think.
a pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm here. We
Said
thank
it was
everyone for
mild
yeah,
mannered.
because we real laid back right now. So
Yeah. But we're
shout
gonna
out to
touch
my
that in a
brother.
minute.
Yeah, shout out to my brother, brother Pat, brother Six. How y'all doing today,
MD,
man?
almost perfect.
I'm doing good, man. You know, we didn't get the snow. You know, we got a little rain.
Mm.
Oh, it's a little chilly for South Carolina, but you know, we
I heard about that. I heard about that warm weather, and I was in Louisville in that snow. I heard, yep, you got up out there. I'm back. Praise. Oh
man.
my goodness.
I was out of there.
I got my lotto money, and I was out of there.
Hey, listen, man.
Yeah, man, I was out of there.
I
What's
promise
up to all
you.
the listeners and everybody, man? One
Peace
time,
to you.
that blood, man.
One time.
Everybody in the news, old,
23rd, stand up.
all y'all, man. Glad to see you all, man.
Yeah. So you know what? Before we just get back into it, Six, let's see if we can turn up just a half a second, man, before we cut the music back off. But let's see. Let me see how I feel. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we got it. Now.
Okay. Yeah. I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling good.
Everyone's.
It's it.
Glad
Yo,
to be
welcome.
back, brothers. Glad to be amongst y'all, man.
Indeed. Yo, again,
more
this
time.
is the Back Alley Fella podcast. I'm your one of your hosts, Mike D, with my brother Big Pat, my man, brother Six. And we rep Louisville, Kentucky to the fullest, no matter where we at in the world. We always represent our home, 23rd to be specific, or Pacific, you know, to some of our black people. You know what I'm saying? Pacific to, but everybody else specific. And we want to thank everyone. We shout out to our first time, last time listeners. If you've been tuning in, we thank you. We send gratitude. We are humbled by you continuing to tune in. We ask that you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend to tune in to our thing. I see you over at Pat. I see you over at Wooving and Weaving and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Well,
But
I see you.
what's going on with you, brothers? Everything good on y'all end?
Man, man. You're doing pretty good, man. Like I said, I was in the Ville for a little spit. Came back here, man. Feel glad to be back home, man. Once again, back with you brothers. Ain't nothing happening in the city of Louisville. Everything is shut down right now. There's bad snow, man, coming
It's
through.
good.
You
Sometimes
know,
that's a good thing.
From the top to the bottom. It's bad. It doesn't shut some stuff down. You know, that bad accident out there, 133 people, something like that, was an accident, 6 died. So, and this is happening all over. It's just shutting cities down, man.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe they need to get shut down.
Yeah,
I'm doing good, brothers. You know, once again, I know I keep bringing it up, but it's real for me. So, you know, Still dealing with a couple of little side effects from the COVID, but so once again, wear your mask and stay protected, man. It's real. I'm still having night sweats and headaches and so and there's long lasting effects of that. But I'm doing okay, man. I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to get this thing started. We done spent enough time before we get started. Something we always do. What we do, Big Mike?
Well, the first thing we need to know is we want to know what's in your cup or in your glass or in your bottle, whichever you prefer. Always send it, shout us out, let us know. If you have a cup, we always prefer a red cup, but it could be styrofoam, it could be whatever. Again, a glass, wine glass, whiskey bottle, whatever, or it could be water bottle. Whatever. We don't discriminate. We don't discriminate. We just want to know what's in your bottle. And we also have like a little ritual that we do as far as our toast that we do. So Six, if you hit that music, if you cut it off, we'll get into it. We have Pat lead us, and we always dedicate this to our beloved brother, Reginald Smith. Reginald
everybody, man, all y'all, man, one time.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you, in my cup, I promised for everybody that was here last week. I told you I was gonna turn it up a little bit. I've been drinking alkaline water for about 3-4 weeks. Yes. But today, I turned it up just a little bit. It's
just a smidget.
It's tea. Just happens to be from Long Island.
Okay. You went to
I put a little twist in it. Now I tried something, and I'm gonna tell you something. I ain't giving nobody no props. But I threw a couple of watermelon annihilators in here and let them just
look at him. He done went all the way back. Listen,
Long Island.
He didn't get regular annihilators. He got watermelon. Boy.
Yeah.
With a Long Island iced tea. Okay. What about you, Brother Six? What you sipping on, brother?
Well, as of yesterday was my last drink of liquor, and I'm strictly going wine, brother.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave the liquor alone. I might have a beer every now and then, but from here on out, I'm leaving the liquor alone, and I'm gonna go with the wine. I didn't want to do it. I was a punk at the idea because personally, a man drinking wine is like,
hey man, it's some good stuff, man.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
You got some money to drink a lot of wine.
And
I might join you next week. With a glass, but I ain't gonna do it in the cup though, brother. I'm gonna do it in the glass.
I was gonna do it that way, but I didn't want to break tradition. I wanted to break the news first,
brother.
And I'm gonna follow up,
brother. We say you'll hear it in a minute. We go from bottles and glasses and cups that are plastic. But so for me, you know what I'm saying? It's smooth. It's a smooth drink. So I got my bottle of water, whatever. So I got a smooth drink, yet it's bold. I went with that 20 grand gold. You see how I rhymed that? So I'm sipping on that, and it's on ice. I don't have no big rocks. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to give me a couple of big rocks to put in there. And I'm gonna just sip on that for about 4 or 5 days.
Let's get it started. So let's get y'all cups up. Those that are watching this podcast, get your cup, your glass, your bottle up. Because bottles, glasses, cups that are plastic. Alleyways backwards. Perfection takes practice. Friendship turned kinship. 2/3 of the street dynastic.
Brotherhood from the neighborhood. Our minds are divine in the move the sublime. On the rocks, brother, give me something strong.
I can give you a mixer, a slice of lime. Put your drinks up. Now let's link up. It's nothing but love in this atmosphere. Peace and salutations, brothers and sisters, the fellas. We in here. Cheers.
All right,
Six,
we need to get into this.
Yeah, but hold on. Six, we're going to have to tell you can't start until 30 minutes prior.
Yeah. Hey, etiquette. I'm trying to get him there. Hey, I'm trying to get him there.
You got to warm up. You got to warm up 15 minutes. You got to warm up with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Go out to shoot arounds.
All right.
2 hours from now.
So today, I was going to talk about a little bit what's going on in the back alley.
Okay.
What did you hear out of the back alley?
Well, I heard that there's some talk about who we are, our identity. So I'm gonna start us off with a little bit. Then I really want us to dialogue on this one. I hope that we have a open conversation, because I really want to hear what you brothers got to say about this. So, when it comes to Black Americans, there's a whole bunch of terms used. I don't say no names, but somebody mentioned about the word Negro last week. So if y'all watched last week, y'all know what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of terms that are used to identify this particular group of people in a community. And nowadays it's strange, brothers, because the most common labels are African American, Black, you Negro back in the day, and people of color. Of color. We got to put a little education in there. The dictionary defines African Americans, and it's strange to me. Then the peep this now. The dictionary describes of African American is an American of African and especially of Black African descent. The term African American is typically used to describe ethnicity, while Black often describes race. So, I want us to talk about this a little bit. I want us to dialogue. I'm trying to throw out a little bit of history for our listeners before we get into this. The concept of race was historically important in the lives of Black people in the United States. And there was a great author named, a great writer, orator, author named W.E.B. Du Bois that wrote a lot about it. So I questioned it today, and to the brothers that I pose, is who are we? Who are you? Who are we?
Interesting question.
Yeah, it's interesting where you took it.
Yeah.
But I like it. What about you, Brother Six?
Yeah, I can walk with that, man. I like that, the way you pose that question. And there's so many avenues to this that we can take. I'll just throw this out there as that's where I'm gonna go with it. And like I said, I'll come back 360 degrees on this. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? When you look at a Black man, you're looking at God. Can you claim yourself as that? But me personally, that's my opinion. I am I'm someone, and I had a brother last week that mentioned this, and I thought about it, and I'm gonna put this out there, and I mean this with all my heart. I'm a brother that no longer believes I know. So I'm not saying I'm better or worse than anyone. It's just that I know now. I'm no longer a believer. I know. So when I look in the mirror, I'm looking at self, and I try and prove that each and every day that I go through life, knowing where I come from. Come on, walk with me.
So do you all believe that most Black people see themselves as a likeness of God, or made in the image of God?
What do you think, Mike? I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't. If I took it personal,
I think so, but I think so, but I also think that most tend to see it from a external source. So while they do believe that, they also feel like they like, it's like they part and partial of it. So it's almost as if everything is from an outside force. So I guess it's difficult to maybe describe it. So I would say it like this: it's interesting where y'all took this. So we didn't do a pre meeting or anything like that. So when I thought about it initially, and I can go where you're going. Initially, I thought about it from an individual perspective. Like, who are you? And I was thinking more, and we could add on another time. So I thought about it, from the perspective of man, woman. Like oftentimes we have these things, these labels that we put on us. Like, I'm a man, I'm a black man, or I'm a ball player, or I'm this, that, and that. And so we define ourselves by the actions that we do, and not so much the root of that. That being said, we can hold that for another conversation. I think that so it's so many different schools of thought. You have some people that say that the name Africa is not the original name. You have some that talk about through the research that it comes from the tribe, like the names of Afri, Afri Ra, Afri Ra. So it's Afri, Ka, and Ra. Those are African names and symbols and things of that nature. You have I think it's maybe pronounced Alcalabon or something like that. And then you have some people that kind of talk about Africa was named after the Roman Empire, which is like, it don't even really make sense, because if you really do the history, you recognize that the reason that he was renamed Africanus was because he conquered Africa. He wouldn't have got that name if he hadn't conquered Africa. But I also think that oftentimes, so you hear the term Moor, you hear Kemites, you might hear Cushites, you might hear the Twa people, the Sand people, the Dogon, the Igbo, you hear the Khan people, the Ashanti people. You hear a lot of different things. I don't know if, and maybe we did, but I think that most people of the world were the people that called us something. When they came into contact with us, they gave us names. I don't know if we sat around and called ourselves whatever. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if we identified ourselves, and maybe we did. And there's more research. I think that I think sometimes we can get caught up in some of the minutia, and that tends to kind of fracture us in many ways. But I mean, you got people that say we are the ancient Israelites. And the more, then you have, like I said, you have so many different things. But what I will say, that race, according to if you read Right Fragility, or what's the book that I have back here? I think it's The Invention of the White Race, volumes 1 and 2 by Theodore W. Allen. There's several other books that kind of talk directly about the invention of race and white race in particular. And I think from that perspective, that kind of separated the human family from one another. And that might even started even prior to, but I think that most people, based on where they were born, that's who they were. That's who they identified with. Those tribes.
Mike, you can, in my opinion, you can look at it from both perspectives as one. Because even if you say, if you take it from the standpoint of, like you said, how people identify, I am this, I'm an athlete, I'm a this, I'm that. In my opinion, one of the reasons we're lost as a people is because we don't have a true identity, or most of us don't know our true identity. There are a lot of us that are woke and have studied and learned, but it was funny as I was looking some of this up. There's a gentleman named William E. Cross Jr. So if y'all listening, you can write that down and remember this. And he started this thing called the Black Racial Identity Development Study, BRID. And it was kind of interesting. It caught my eye a little bit. And I'm not giving shout outs, no accolades or nothing like that, but I ran across it and it was pretty interesting to me because it talks about this study and how years ago, most people of color identified with who they are, like what we're talking, like a race or a actual tangible, for lack of a better word, thing. But in his study, he said he found out that most people nowadays associate their Black identity more with psychological health, academic achievement, acculturation, social competence, all of these things, which is what you was talking about, where you're identifying with, like, I'm a man, or I'm an athlete, or I'm a versus a race. So in my opinion, until we figure out for the masses who we are, it's going to be very difficult for us to get where we're going. You know, our kids today, you go to school is set up where you learn slavery and the civil rights movement. That's just school. And in my opinion, and I'm asking you brothers, most people don't do any research after that.
No, yeah, you would be right. If anything,
For most people.
And then when one of us come and we say, race is man-made. There was races. Even when you go back to their Bible, when you talk about the King James Bible, there was no black, white. There were Israelites, Canaanites, Cushites. So, but most people don't do. They take the schooling because we're told that you go to school, you learn what they teaching you, you'll be able to get a job, you'll be able to work, and you'll be able to be successful off of what they taught you.
I'm gonna let Six jump in, but I've told this to my kids. I heard someone say this, and so I use this as well. And I've told them, I said, never let school get in the way of your education. Most of the things that I've learned have been outside of what the traditional side of school. I'm not knocking.
Yeah.
I think, we've got degrees, what all of that stuff. That I don't care about that. I mean, I care about it, but it has a place and a time. But that doesn't make me who I am. Most of the stuff has been on my own because I think that's where you grow. But Shakes, how do you feel about what Brother Pat, or your own thoughts of where you want to go? I don't want to.
Well,
just what Pat was saying.
To kind of horsey back right off of both of you all. I'm going to stay in the direction of knowing self to our listeners and to our viewers that's watching us now. You got a little feedback on your history coming from one of us brothers. You got a little feedback on how and where and maybe this is where you came from and what are you claiming. So I'm going to stay with who are you? Have you looked in the mirror and said, who am I? So, and I had to do that. I had to look in the mirror and I had to go, hey, I'm almost 50. Who am I? And like I was telling these brothers, I had mentioned a while back, the most two important days to me in a person's life is the day you're born and the day you find purpose. So once you find your purpose, that nothing else really matters because your focus in life is to live each moment. And so with that said and thinking that way for me, the time that I spend talking to you brothers, the time that you spend doing anything in life other than living, who are you? So I had to make a change. And if you want to make a change, you look in the mirror and you make a change and you change those people around you if you want to change those people around you. But first you got to find out and want to do something for yourself because it's all about self.
So
and the preservation of time.
So yourself, you got to have a history?
No, what's got to matter now is it's got to take what you know and apply it to self and use what you got. Because some of us call ourselves broke, some of us call ourselves happy, mad, sad, and we don't really know where we come from. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'll put it this way: if you don't know where you're from, find self, find yourself, and then
But let me
find
ask
out.
you this though.
Uh-huh.
In saying that, and this is to both of you all, if you're building a house and you don't build no foundation, you just build the house, the four walls, the roof on the flat ground.
Mhm.
And then when it rains, the ground gets wet, muddy. What's
Mhm.
to your house?
Well,
Foundation.
It's gonna fall because there's no foundation.
So
Right.
so where I disagree with Six on this part is from this perspective only, that I do think you have to know your history.
You have to. You gotta have a base.
But I think that, you know, that's where, you know, when people get into the weeds, that's where I think a lot of things get muddy. So
Yeah.
so if science in itself has basically said that all life, all human life, human beings of Homo and even Austral, all the different names, and I apologize, y'all, for not knowing all these particular names or whatever. But life in itself started in what we know as the continent of Africa, East Africa, Eastern Southern Africa. And the more that we start to dig up, we even see that it might even be more southern than what we understood. So that's where civilization and all things begin, in all courses of the development of the human family developed. And then once we were able to get our show on the road, you know, developed,
Yeah.
we took our show on the road
Right.
around the world.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah,
we
yeah.
so if we dealt with that, no biblical, no Islamic, no religion, no nothing. Because some of those things are meant for mythology, or for allegory, and are not necessarily tied to historical facts when you lay it against all the different things. Forget all of that. If science tells you this, and you know that the sun kissed people that look like me and you, in the different variations of shades and textures of hair and all of those different things first, and the human family and all the different shades and mutations developed out of that, at the bare minimum, all you need to know is that you are the byproduct of the beginning of human life.
Okay, right there.
So if you start at that point,
Right.
and if you want to tie divinity into it and all of those things, then you can do that. But if you just start from that perspective and then start to look at what it took to get to where we at right now, you don't have to get into the religious and all those different things. You can appreciate all the things that manifested itself to from that point to this point. And from there, having that knowledge of self, whatever else that you add on to it, as long as you become the better, the better version of yourself, you know, it's it. Again, I've said this
Yeah.
many a
And,
times.
that,
Is go
and
ahead,
that's
brother.
that's my point there. I didn't mean to cut you off and be
No, you
rude,
good, brother.
but that's my point. And I knew we'd end up in the same place because that's where I was going. For our listeners, that's exactly what I'm saying. And let me make it clear. Whatever you have, make it work. Because each day you step out of the bed is one step closer to the grave. You don't know your time. So whatever you got, it's good to know where you're from. And you got to know where you're from to know where you're headed and where you're at.
Come on now.
I know
brothers.
that.
We're talking about who are we?
And that's what I'm talking
But
about.
that's what I'm saying. So
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about me as an individual, and I ain't talking about us as a race or group or where I came from. Anything. I'm keeping it more personal with me today on who I am.
because I honestly
You
think
feel what
that,
I'm saying? I'm not
yeah,
talking about where we come from or what we're doing. I'm saying to you two brothers, as I looked into the mirror and found out and asked myself that question: who am I? And that's what
And
I'm
who are
saying.
you?
And this is what I am. I'm a man that's making change, and change is hard. but I know my potentials and what I should be doing, and seeing that I ain't, I have to make that change and start doing and using what I got to become the man I think I should be, that I know I
Now,
can be.
is that who we truly are, or is
And
it
that's
what, or is that back to what Mike said when someone says, "Well, like I said, well, I'm a basketball player, I'm an athlete." That's not who we are. Those are attributes of what we can do.
Well, see, here's the thing. Who we are is our relative on how you want to define it. So no one gets
well,
the right to tell you
right.
that this is who you
I
are. I
agree
mean,
with
if we want to get historical, then we'll be all day, because everyone is going to look at the
Regard.
same the same information, and and then decide and take it and go whatever, and we'll be arguing for days and years on just to get to a point where we are all agree to disagree, or we'll see it in a different way. So I would say that I'm a divine spiritual being having a divine human experience. So for me, everything that I do is from that. Now I keep my basis in African tradition, African culture, and all of those things, knowing that I know a slither about the cultures, the indigenous things that existed on the continent and spread out amongst the world. So to try to get into it, I try to find out about those things. I find those things very interesting, and it brings me more closer to that divine source as I learn. But I also recognize that the same way that I would criticize someone else that maybe looks at things from whatever perspective, it would be wrong for me to say, well, this is how I see it. This is who we are, and then place that on everyone else. I think that everyone has to dig deep. I think that there's some roots to that, and I think that if we were talking about stripping down, to your point, Pat, stripping down, what that is. I mean, we talk about man and males, and we're gonna at some point talk about manhood and different things and fatherhood, just those different things. We're gonna have a segment on that. But again, I think when we talk about who are you, it's difficult, because somebody that's based in that Christian faith will say that I'm a Christian, and the tenets that I hold to are the tenets of Christ and those things that are taught. Now, Israelite, depending on the side of the count, might be New Testament type, or might be Old Testament. You might have Moors that maybe have found tradition in Islam, or more African traditionals. You might have Kemites and those of the Igbo, the different cultures, different things. They're going to find their way and how they make it happen, understanding who they are and tying themselves into that divine force, I think is the biggest thing. And I think to Six's point of recognizing and being self-aware is the biggest thing of like, okay, I'm more than what has been given to me, or what has been, I won't even say bestowed, more so what's kind of just this is the label, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it reminds me, Pat, and I want to get your thoughts on this, both of y'all. It reminds me of that conversation that we had about rites of passage, and the fact that because we don't have those rites of passage, we find ourselves at this age and beyond having this conversation on who we are, and still, I won't say struggling for all, but being able to because we've had to assimilate into other cultures that maybe are not necessarily conducive to the way that we go. But those are my thoughts.
Well, I found it interesting, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Brother Six. I'm just
posing a question.
Yeah, and when we even for myself, when I look in the mirror and I say, who am I? But that bridge study that I was talking about, it did one interesting point that I wanted to make. I'm not giving anybody no shout outs. I'm not, but it piqued my interest because as Dr. Cross, he used a 5-stage model describe how Black people feel. Now watch me now in the preaching mode now. So which brings us back to what you said, Brother Six. You look into the mirror and to look at yourself. That comes back to how a person feels, how a Black person feels, right? Because that's once you look into the mirror, you're looking at how you feel and how. So he said for his 5-stage model to describe a Black person's feelings, thoughts, behaviors, watch this, as he or she moves from a white frame of reference to a positive Black frame. He named off the 5 stages, and we're not gonna go over them, but the first one did intrigue me. But the 5 stages were pre-encounter, encounter, immersion or immersion, internationalization, and internationalization / commitment. Okay, all of that. In saying that the first stage is pre-encounter, watch how interesting this is. I'm gonna read it. Black people consciously or unconsciously manifest an anti-Black worldview while seeking to assimilate or acculturate in dominant white society.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And poor psychological health are characteristics of individuals while they're in this pre-encounter stage.
Oh, without a doubt. I agree with that wholeheartly.
Yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly because I think that when you talk about the simulation of us on where we at right now and even globally, I agree with that. I think that when we talk about knowing ourselves, it's from a reference that stemmed before someone told you who you were. It's understanding. So I remember watching a lecture, right? I remember Brother Kaba had this lecture, and I've done this a couple of times to some people to try to get them to understand who we are. So, so Six will understand. I think in the nation, I believe in the nation, they talk about a 25,000 year cycle of man, right?
Okay.
Am I right or wrong?
We talking about knowing the 25,000 years that we know and for the history and predicting history. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is, just help me. Am I right in that when they talk about this 25, that it's not that we just in this first 20, they're saying that there's a 25,000 year cycle. Okay. Solar, lunar, whatever the case might be, but there's that the Black man knows this and understands this. So let's take that 24,909, 25,000, whatever the case might be. Okay. Now, brother gave the demonstration like this. If a man, we talking, let's say we all talking, somebody walked behind me, did like this, and then walked out. Pat, Six, what would it be? Could you describe? Man came across, looked down, did like this, and walked back out. Can you describe what happened? What's your take on that?
Oh, you talking about the first thing that came to mind was black power.
What about you, Pat?
Affirmation of who we are.
Okay, so these are all things that you just kind of give it. Okay, we talking. Next thing you know, same Black man comes, does the same thing, look down, does this, walks back out. What you got?
If the brother walks,
everybody to walk with me. What y'all got?
If the brother walks back in and do it again, I said Black power.
Trying to get a response.
What you got, Pat?
Response.
Okay. We talking, we doing the same thing we doing. Brother walks in, does the same thing, walks back out. What you got?
He's getting annoying.
You said getting annoying.
Now,
Okay,
I
brother
say
walks.
it continues.
Where? What you?
He's
Okay.
saying that it never ends.
So we talk. Does that same thing? Does that? What do y'all got at that point?
We got a brother that's doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result.
So all of these things you're trying to ascertain, that's fine. At any point, did somebody say, let me time to see how often this brother comes in? Does he come every 2 minutes? Every 3 minutes? See, what you did was jump all the way into a philosophical thought on what that represented. The first thing you need to do is, well, how often does this person come around? Is this a 2-minute cycle? Is it a 3-minute cycle? Is it an hour cycle? Is it a 5-day, 6-day cycle? Is it a year? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. From there, then you'll be able to measure what happens during that course of time, and then you sort of. But guess what? You could figure that out on the first one, right? You could figure it out on the second, the third, or the fourth. I asked y'all 4 times. That never came to your mind. Maybe on the 5th or 6th time, it might strike you and say, man, we need to time this to see how often this come around. So when we say that Black people, Africans, however you want to describe it, were able to chart the stars in 24,000 or 25,000 year cycles, we know people ain't living to be that long, right?
Right.
But you're not capturing that on the first go around because you just saw it. It's going to take you at least 4 or 5 times, right? 3 or 4 or 5 times, to just, wait a minute, we keep seeing this same thing in this same place, doing the same thing. Let's time this. But because we know that we don't last that long, there's mathematics, there's communication, there's things that are passed down that you have to start having mathematical equations to chart, to do this. What am I trying to say? If you could chart a star, let's say for 3,000 years, how old are you? Because it's going to take you at least 9 to 12,000 years, maybe 15,000 years before people would be able to recognize that. And then be able to pass that information on to say every so many years, you need to watch this. So then there's mathematical equations that need to come with that. So when we get to a point where we're saying that we as a people, when we talk about SATs and whatever, when you understand that alone, when you understand that you might have been born in, or human peoples who were born in a certain place and the waters might have rushed in. So if you built near that place, you would know. But every so often you charting how often the flood banks, the Nile would run. And then you build on higher ground. Then you build irrigation to be able to farm and to eat. So the point I'm trying to make is, the more you understand, you ain't got to get spiritual. You can have all of that. The history alone tells you of your genius. The history alone tells you of how old you are, how important you are. So if you just deal with that sense of pride and having your back straight and not having to depend on someone else's definition of who you are. Because remember, those people that came about from my mutations into different things, they're part of the family and human family tree. But as they came across, they were the ones that defined who we were. They tried to call them more, whoever you want to call them, Egypt, or burnt faces, or the Afri, or whatever. We people of the land, people of the sun. We out here kicking it. Everywhere we go, people come in contact, and then they try to define us, You know, so people say, well, don't call yourself black because it's this. And I understand the structure of that. But if Moor actually kind of means black, just because you call yourself Moor, those people were really describing black people. That's just the term that they use to call them. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So ain't we saying the same thing? So
So
we could get caught up in that stuff, and I'm okay with that. But all of that you could just deal with the facts on the ground.
I'm gonna
Gives
go
you
here
that sense of whatever. And I hope I made sense with that. If I
right.
didn't, my
And
fault.
you did, and I understand where you're coming from. I'm gonna say this. On the perspective I was coming from, to kind of say, okay, what about this in that sense to the listeners? What I'm saying about me looking in the mirror and making that change to do all of that is as I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like some of us in this, and especially this new generation, nobody in that room took and said, hey brother, man, what you doing? Nobody asked that. They were just wondering and coming up with their own thing, or that outside entity telling them what this mean and what that stood for, instead of just asking the brother, why are you doing that? What does that mean? What are you doing? What is your message? What's going on, brother? Who are you? We don't ask them questions to ourselves to even want to get to that stage. And that's what I'm saying that's hurting most of us. Most of us don't even want to know who we are. And like you saying, I'm agree with you wholeheartedly. Just start with the facts. You can just start with the facts. And I ain't judging. I'm not saying to each his own. I'm just saying what I had to do. And I'm agreeing with both of you brothers, because I had to figure out who I am and what did I mean to the world. I knew I was blessed once I came into the world, and I was blessed when I found my purpose.
What you got?
So that I'm saying, if when I looked at it, you came in the room, it's like, what is it doing? And that's so interesting, because you're absolutely right. How long did it take us to even figure out our 25,000 years that we predicted was going to be the future? Man, that's so enlightening, because now that puts you face to face with self in the mirror. What are you gonna do?
It just gives you a different perspective. But what you got, Pat?
I'm not looking at it from that deep of a concept.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at it in a broader sense of as a generation to generation. Like, for instance, if we don't truly know who we are, and that's one of the reasons I read that first phase, is because we're trying to find out who we are, but we're mimicking. Now, when I say we, I mean us as a people, but we're mimicking what white society has done, because that's what they've taught us. However, without knowing who we are, we're kind of missing the mark. And when I say that, it's because we see a lot of successful people that are non-black, let's say white. And so when we get some money, let's say, for instance, we want to get the big house, the big car, because they have that. But in my opinion, I think we're missing the mark, because what we're missing is them knowing where they came from, who they are, and then they're starting, that folds back into generational wealth, where to get the house and the car for their kids and their grandkids, they did A, B, C. We're jumping straight to D, E, and F. So then me, Brother Six, Brother Mike may have beautiful homes, nice cars, but we haven't really set nothing up for, and I don't mean us three in particular, I'm talking about as a race or a nation. We haven't really set anything up for our kids, our grandkids. So once we move on and we pass on, what do we have for them, where a lot of the whites do that?
Well, Pat, the pushback I would have from that is that you still are describing, when you say what are you leaving, you still describing a system that if you want to say that it's created by, you know, our white brothers, you know what I'm saying, the sisters or whatever the case, a European, whatever term
No,
you
I'm
want
even
to do.
talking about culture and history, not just
What-
realistic things.
but yeah, so what I'm saying is that the first thing is recognizing here's one of the things that I recognize even in conversations when I first came into knowledge itself, and you know how you learning some stuff, and the first thing you want to do is you want to debate. But more than anything, you was really trying to
Well,
just
put
throw
that
it-
bat down, first of all, talking to me, because that's
Bro, what you scared? You all way in South Carolina, I'm in Nap, bro. What are you talking about?
okay. I'm gonna explain that to you later, but go ahead.
Oh, what was this a symbol, a sign, a symbol,
Yeah,
something?
It's
Okay,
like
what tell-
when you're talking to somebody, if you cross your arms, that automatically gives out that you're not receiving it, that you're tight, your posture.
talking about
Yeah. So and you
Non-verbal.
talking to me, and you swinging this bat, pointing at me with this bat, makes me want to do something to you. That's all.
Oh man, there you go. There you go. That's that Negro.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay.
Listen.
And while
Right.
you do that, I'm gonna open up one of these now layers.
Look at you. So no, shit, I done forgot what I was about to say. What was I? What I say? What I was
I
talking
know I
about?
lost track when you were swinging that bat at me.
See, that's what I'm talking about. He did that on purpose. No, I think that, you know, when we talk about our beliefs, the first thing is that most people are born into certain belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I was going to go is that, you know, when you get in, you want to teach your family, you want to give them what you learn, and soon what you find out is that you in a heated discussion because you're not necessarily talking to, as the nation of gods and herbs would say, you know, build and destroy. So if you're destroying a person's foundation, it's just not their foundation. It's mama, big mama, granddaddy, great granddaddy, great grandmama. So if I'm coming to somebody and saying this is not right and exact, or what you believe maybe it's not historically ahistoric, what does that really mean? That means that you telling me that mama and grandmama and great grandmama that raised me and taught me and went on to be with the Lord, that ain't true. That's a foundation that you turn down without being able to build them back up. And so from that perspective, what it took me a while to realize, like, well, hold up. Here's what I need to do. I'm no longer going to, at least I'm gonna attempt to not have a battle with you, but a conversation. And once I've recognized, like, okay, if I give you this book, like you just told us, an author, now it's incumbent upon me to maybe write that down, go do some research, look that up, read some things on that, get some different viewpoints or whatever. If I don't, that's okay. But if I keep trying to challenge you on the merits of the thing, never trying to look those things up, do research, just stay in whatever house that I'm in, then what conversation are we having? There's no need for me to even have a conversation because we just talking to be talking, because you're never going to do anything. You're never going to do any research. You're not going to try to go investigate. We just having an argument based on your disagreements. So then if I say, who are you? And you say, well, I'm a child of Christ, so I'm praise due to Allah. I'm a Muslim, a faithful Muslim, and I do this, so I'm a and I'm saying, okay, and I'm watching your measure, because you telling me who you are is one thing. You showing me who you are is something totally different. So you could tell me all day that you this, that, and the third, but as my wife said, and I've taken this and I ran with this, if your audio and your video don't match, we got to have a conversation. So you telling me I'm the original man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe, but you ain't manifesting that thing. You ain't showing me that. Then, brother, you just saying what you saying. You ain't showing me that. I'm looking at your actions, because your actions are going to be in whatever I define it and how I see it. Because again, if we sitting in the mix of someone and they're breaking down a lesson, the way that you receive it is going to be different from the way that I receive it. In the same to six. And then the way that we articulate it to someone else is going to be different, because we're going to take out what we need based on where we at. So I think that I agree with what you said, Pat. I agree with in many ways what you said, Six, about who we are and finding ourselves. But I don't think it's my place to really tell you where you at. It's really not my place. I'm only trying to work with people that recognize and look beyond that thing. I don't have the time right now to try to go back and talk to you about the first peoples were black,
Right.
or that we built the pyramids, or that we built that we found mathematics, so we developed mathematics, or we developed philosophy, or we developed the written language. You know what I'm saying? Or we developed music. You know what I'm saying? Or we educated the masses. I don't have that kind of time no more. Either you got that or you don't. And if you don't, that's okay. In general conversation, we can go there. That ain't my place no more. Wherever you at is where you at. Now we can work together if we trying to build a common goal. But you telling me who you are, because I would ask you, because you never told me, Pat, who are you?
I don't know. Just like I think all of us know.
That's a fair answer too. It goes to right under what.
No, I could say I know.
Again,
You see what I'm saying? Huh?
It ties into exactly what I'm talking about too.
I could say I know who I am,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
but that don't make me better or nothing.
Right. Because in the
but that ain't what we're talking about. Is if it makes you better or not. The whole conversation was,
who are you?
are we?
No, I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that if somebody, I'm just saying, if someone said, I don't know who I am, but I say, but I know who I am, someone could take that and say, well, damn, are they at a different level, or are they better than, or do they think they know more? And it's like, no, you know what I'm saying? You finding or you searching or whatever the case might be, because me knowing has a different responsibility, because who I say I am must now match what I say, what I show and prove.
What I do is what I say. Yeah.
It gotta match. It
well,
must match. It has to match. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm faking the funk.
The saying is, sometimes I just said this tonight about some truth that Brother Pat was dropping on me, some facts, and I was walking with him, and I said, you know what? Sometimes it's better not to know.
Ignorance is bliss. It
Man.
was in the you remember in the Matrix when they said they asked little buddy, and he was like, ignorance is bliss. They was in the restaurant, I think it was the first one, and he turned on the cats. He was like, I just don't want to know. I think, what was that saying? I'm gonna pull it up, because I think that it's one of the greatest sayings by James Baldwin. I'm gonna pull it up. It says oh God. I just was talking about this because I saw the movie American Skin. I don't know if y'all had the opportunity to see American Skin yet.
I've seen some snips and bits of it. I ain't seen all of it.
It's a really good.
I watched that. What we watched the other day that was interesting. Judas the Black.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Yeah. Judas and the Messiah.
Yeah, Black Messiah.
It's something about, and I'm paraphrasing, says to be a Negro and relatively conscious in America is to be enraged almost all the time. And I'm paraphrasing, I know I messed it up, but it essentially is saying to be relatively conscious as a black person in America is to be enraged at all times, almost all the time. And if you think about it, being ignorant, there's a level. Have you ever wondered how people just exist and just you watching them and they almost like ah? And have you thought about or Pat of six? I'm gonna ask you this, Pat, in your travels in the military and the things that you did and the hardships and whatever, did you ever get tired of being a black man, trying not only having to represent your race in everything that you did, but to also educate people on black people? You know what I'm saying? To fight the fight, to do like it's burdensome, it's tiring.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever felt like that?
Feel like that now. Yeah.
What about you, Six?
I can't. I never really. I know. I take that back. I was going to say no, I haven't. But there was a time around in my early 20s, late 20s, or whatever, in my 20s, that I did have a moment like that, on where I had to, you know, uh, do things of that nature to show who I am, to prove that I'm, to wear that blackness and be at that stage. But after a while, after I started walking very slow and everything slowed down for me, I don't think that way anymore.
I'm gonna tell you, bro. I not only felt like that, I feel like that right now at
Mm.
my job, different things, brother. It's tiresome being a black man. It's tired to be in a position where you're having to articulate your points to people to try to get them to understand the systems that they put in place. It's it's tiresome when you sit back and you can understand, you know who you are, but you also recognize where you are and you understand the systems that are in place. Um, and so you try to you like, okay, I need to take care of my family. I got to make sure these things happen. And so in order to move a conversation further, you have to watch tone, you have to watch what is said, because other people's fragility or them being uncomfortable shuts them down. And so you have to pick and choose the words that you say, and it becomes a taxing moment. So it's one of those things when you say, okay, I know who I am. Now you trying to figure out, how do I navigate, and do I teach my children to exist in this, on this plane, in this world, on this system, or do I tell them to buck the system and do it this way? And you think, well, maybe if I tell them this way, your hope is that other people are telling maybe their children to be some way, and they can exist in a and they can build something different than where we at. But if we're still occupying and existing in this capitalist society right now, shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
As James Bible said, I'm not your Negro. But what does that really mean?
yeah, I would, like I said, there was a time in my life that I did have to do that, and it was by choice, that I chose that route at that particular time. But now it's about me, and what do I do? What do it's about me, and I'm not worried about how anybody takes what I do or what I say, because I can die in the next moment, and then what? See, the world don't owe you shit. See, and that's the problem when we get caught up into letting. And I'm not knocking nobody when I say this.
Mhm.
Start letting other things influence how you think and how you feel. I think that's where I messed up. I'm gonna put this all on me. I'm not gonna even bring the world into this. it just makes me go a different route than what I know I should be doing. Because for me to now, I can say now that I'm not in the position as you would be, MD, because what you say right now to someone affects their life and their livelihood and their families, and what your everyday job is and what you do and in your particular situation. To where in my situation now, it's about, hey, to make this change, this is what you have to do. And so for me sticking to that, I really can't say that, um, here's an example, to walk into a store and be still, I'm gonna slide this one in there. Nobody remember this. To still be junior, my coattail has to be pulled, and my big brother Pat had to be like, "Hey man, this is where you at. This look at where you at. No, notice the words and the things that you're doing and you're saying. It's not affecting just you, but I'm with you. You know what I mean? And I don't mean this in a bad way. And I ain't saying to change. I'm just saying do it where it benefits the both of us, and that makes sense sometimes. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? So.
Pat, you been quiet. What you talking? What you thinking about?
Just after all the education, the life travels, the experiences, and to be 54 years old to still not be totally sure who I am, it's kind of daunting. And I never really thought about it until today. Even when I was doing some research on this topic, it never really dawned on me. And I thought I knew, but the more I think about it, I really don't. And and even with the previous thoughts of who I thought I was, just talking to you two brothers, I don't, it's changed my view of how I look at it. And I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna delve into this a little deeper, but it brings me to, I had this book right here.
Let me see what
it's called. My Folks Don't Want Me to Talk About Slavery.
Okay.
It's the actual stories from 21 slaves, by former slaves from North Carolina. And they were all interviewed separately. They were all asked different questions, but it kind of culminated back to they wanted their parents, as the years went on, didn't want them, the parents or grandparents, they didn't want them to talk about slavery. They were almost shamed at where it came from. It made me think, if that was really happening, which would be our great grandparents, how that may have affected how we are today because of what our parents were taught and their parents were taught and so on and so forth. And we really don't know. I mean, we're all grown men now and we're all walking this path, but if you ever really think about it, some of the decisions we made or some of the things we've done are influenced by things we were taught in our past. That's all. It's just intriguing, and I think I'm gonna look deeper into it as we move forward. But I think it's done came on though, ain't they?
Well, yeah, but before we had to get on the porch, I wanted to ask you, in for both of y'all, does your craft, as much as you can elaborate, is that not supposed to be a place in which you go from now help me with the term, Pat, because you would consider yourself a speculative, correct, instead of a, what's the other term? Did I say it correct? Operative and then a speculative. Operative being someone that actually lays down foundation, actual mason that builds and do things. From a speculative that builds from the tool shed of the mind, the workshop of the mind, and builds on self. So when I ask that, not only from your craft, from your brotherhood, as well as that within the nation and whatever else, six, are those things not in place to kind of walk you through who you are and where you were and like to give you that I'm gonna say knowledge of self. You know what I mean?
Um,
Um,
I would say it all depends on how you read into it, MD. Meaning taking what you said and the things that set up for me and my craft or our restrictive laws or our principles. Um, yes, it's set up for you to um, stay on that path. And once you get off that path, then you have to get back on that path. So I'm gonna say yes, it is set up for that way. But some
I'm gonna
people
say
don't.
no.
Yeah, some people don't take it that way. You know, some people don't look into it that
So
way, or miss it,
okay. So
or miss that point that Brother Pat was
mhm.
talking about. So
I'm gonna say no.
So okay, so Six said yeah. Pat, you say no.
Because
It's not set up for that.
I'm gonna say no for both of us. I'm gonna say no for him too, because I'm oldest of both of y'all. So when I say go, I'm the leader of this group. So
so at least you know who you are. Hey,
all
at least you
jokes
know who you
aside,
are.
because in any organization or let's say craft, and I can't speak from a Nation of Islam point of view because I've never been in the Nation of Islam, but looking from the outside in knowing the basis of it and the basis of masonry and the basis of the Greek fraternities. Each I'm gonna pick my words carefully. And again, this is my opinion, no one else's. But each organization or craft considers itself as the elite or the best, the
way.
Yeah, the way. And when you become a part of it, it does kind of teach you, it shows you the way, but it's more of a think of it like this. If you were in the woods, and I need y'all to picture this with me, this will better illustrate what I'm talking about. You're in the woods, and the woods are dense. I'm talking about every 2 inches, there's a tree. And you're navigating your way through these trees, and you're slipping through them and trying to get to them, and then you come to an opening. And when you get to the edge, you're standing, so to your back is those woods. And as you look back, you can't even see maybe 2 feet behind you because there's so many trees. But forward is wide open. That's kind of what our crafts are. They show you the way, and they take you from where you were to who you are or can be. So,
but never. So in many ways, by you saying that it's supposed to not only tell you or help you develop who you are or who you should become
in their sense.
Right. And their organization.
Because listen, though, brother. Because listen.
And that's the way they got it.
Because like you said, there's operative and speculative masons. The operative masons, everyone couldn't be a mason.
I'm only talking about the speculative. Because from that craft.
Even as a speculative, everybody can't be a mason. So we're speaking of who we are as a people.
Wait, well, so no, I recognize what you're saying. I understand that. I'm not talking about everyone. I only asked from your lens when you said I didn't or didn't know. I'm saying so for me, if I'm going to be a part of an organization that speaks from the sense of building with the tool shops of the mind, and so they're going to use certain symbology to sharpen or perfect the square, you know what I mean, or stand on my square, or to even the rough edges and all those different things, however you want to label it. From whatever standpoint, it's not only going to give me a sense of who I was in my history, whatever that is, because I'm bringing in myself as well, but it's also shaping me to become who I want to be, which is a perfected man.
It's shaping you. It's shaping you from a lump of clay.
Yeah.
You're
But
already a man. And
yeah.
You're let's just look at it from that point. You're a let's say there's a potter sitting at a pottery wheel. He already got a
The
lump.
potter's wheel. It's one of your things,
He
right?
starts spinning it.
Yeah.
He starts spinning it. He's molding it.
Uh-huh.
But that we're missing is it didn't take you all the way back to when it was just powder and water.
Mm-hmm.
You were already on the potter's wheel, a lump of clay.
Right.
It's shaping you to where you could be or where you should be. So,
So my thought would be that if you become that, if you recognize at that point that, and this is just me, if I recognize that I want to be a part of this,
yes,
Right.
I'm recognizing that I want to be a part of this because I became into some sense of awareness. So whether or not I understand the powdery substance and the liquids that help me become that pot of clay, so whether I understand the ingredients or the subatomic particles that made me this, I there was some awareness that I came into to be a part of this group. And from this group, they're showing me the way to do this.
Yeah.
In understanding that and walking in that, the awareness of me being that now this is just me thinking, would make me want to go back to look at the substance that I was made of, because by someone revealing that to me, and so I'm just asking, I'm not making no judgments one way or another. I'm just wondering.
Well,
you know what I mean?
For me, that's what I was. That was one of the things I was mentioning about in my early 20s and feeling that way. If you all remember the conversation that I was feeling, because back then I figured, hey, where do I want to go? I'm gonna use Pat terminology, from this pot of clay, and I said with you, Mike, I'm gonna have to look back. What organization is gonna shape me to become that person? And when I was in the nation, the first thing that we was taught was Ikra, and Ikra was before prayer, which means read. So I was like, oh, I ain't never read, I'm a Negro, I'm black, and they had it in a book. So let me go and see what's in this book. So by looking back, I said, well, I want to become God again. Since that's who I am, how do I become that again? So that's where I was. I'm gonna leave it there.
all right. Well, let me close with this. Well, the reason that I brought that up is because it actually makes a difference. Without using any kind of names or pointing any fingers, if the pot was made or thought to be made from a new, lighter substance, in the end, it may not be as hard and durable as it needs to be. If you go back to the original minerals and clay that was made from a darker, harder, more sturdy foundation, then when you make the pot, it lasts for hundreds of thousands of years.
No, I agree.
So in most cases, and me and you have had this conversation offline before, Mike, they're only gonna talk about this new substance. You've already done a lot of homework. You've already done a lot of studying outside of this new thing. So most people are not gonna go back to the original substance, and that's where I'm at. And it's important because that helps build who you are. But I just want to close with that and tell you, brothers, that of all the podcasts we've done thus far, this one has been enlightening, and it's actually made me think. And I'm going to do some homework, and I'm going to go do some self-evaluation and some looking at myself a little bit closer. And we'll probably discuss this a little further in the future. But
absolutely, we got some ones. Oh, thank you, brother.
Give it once again a shout out to my brother Reggie. Rest in peace, brother. Fat blood. And it's always been a pleasure to speak with you, brothers.
Indeed.
Yes,
Six, what
sir.
you got, blood?
For both of you brothers, man, I want to thank you again for letting me express this time. I used no notes and nothing like that. I didn't know how the conversation was going to go or where we was headed, but like we were all talking about this conversation, and you mentioned we're going to continue. It's so broad, so there's no need to study or to write down any notes or come together as a team and say, "What do you think?" There's no need to do that because the question was, if all the listeners and the viewers would remember was, who are you? So I wanted to end with that, and just that's opening question ain't something you got to ask. And my point was to get across to both of you brothers, to the viewers and the listeners, look deep within and reevaluate who you are,
Mm.
because we don't have time no more to be guessing and believing. And in my opinion, if you don't know already, then all I was saying was start looking.
No, I'm with you on
One
that.
time to Fat Blood.
Yeah. Peace to everyone. Again, we just brothers just talking. You know what I mean? By no means a stretch does anybody need to hold on to our words and say we writing this, because we're not even trying to be like that. We just
Yeah.
opening dialogue. We hope that
With each other, really.
maybe some of this conversation is something that you and your family can have at the table, your partners or whatever, your girlfriends, that can have conversation. And we will hope that that as we post these, that you will give us comments and critique us and just let us know, you know what I mean? And try to be as warm and pleasant as you can. I mean, I know sometimes, you're going to get at us and we'll take it with a grain of salt, but just let us know, like, yo, I felt that, or I wish y'all have went this way. Cause believe me, we could have went a number of different ways, and maybe we revisit those and take it there. But we always are thankful, grateful, and extremely humble to just be able to have this platform. And if one person tunes in, then that's more than enough, because this was just a vision of us being able to just communicate and talk to one another because we love one another. And so that love extends out to you who tune in and rock with the Back Alley Fellas podcast. So with that, I leave you like this: the time is now and the week is new, and I have more podcasts for you. And you have things you would like to talk about, we will too. See you later.